Good evening and welcome to One on One with Leo Gilling. This evening I have the great pleasure of speaking with someone who I've admired for a long time, and he's given me the opportunity to interview him. And this has been a long time coming. I met him in 2013, and we've worked closely together the first 4 years, and sparingly over the past 3 to 4 years. But I've always wanted to interview this young gentleman, a scholar himself. But tonight I'm going to take off the scholar hat and put him into perspective, because I want to know a little bit about, I want to know a whole heap about Arnaldo Brown this evening, former state minister in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade. Arnaldo, welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here.
All right. So on this program, I like to go deep into your youth. And I know that you're a country boy. I know you're born somewhere in the country, somewhere in a St. Mary or something like that, and then moved to Kingston, right? Is that am I right?
Yeah, I was born in St. Thomas.
Oh, I did not know that. And what time? At what age did you get to Kingston?
At 6.
At 6. Oh, okay. So obviously you grew with mom and dad and thing.
Yeah, I grew up with my mother and my father, yes. But in my early period, I was with my grandmother.
Oh.
And my aunt and my cousins.
Oh.
And a lot of cousins, yes.
Can you tell me your grandma's name? Because what you call her?
Well, we call her grandmother Granny.
Okay.
But her name was Indiana Romeo, and it's not just my grandmother, my maternal grandmother and my grandfather. So Jedithan Romeo, that was his name.
Okay.
So my formative years was spent with my grandparents
and
my Aunt Lil. She was like a second mother to me. Yeah.
Okay. And did you attend basic school or primary school in those?
No, because by the time I was of school age, that time we didn't go to school too early. We went to school around age 6.
Yes.
I was in Kingston, so I went to a basic school on Mountain View Avenue. And then I went to a prep school on Mountain View Avenue. And there's a little story there, because my mom took me to this basic school. She gave me my full exercise book and pencil. And when I went to school, the teacher cut my pencil in half and cut my book in half and gave it away.
Oh my God!
That was the last time I went back to that school. So the following day, my mom took me to Reliable Prep.
Yes.
That was on Mountain View Avenue.
Okay. So you don't remember the name of that school, right?
No. I just know it was a basic school. I didn't stay there long enough to know the name.
Okay, that's interesting. She was just sharing, man. She was just sharing.
Yes, I mean that's exactly what it was. But at the time you go there with your nice old book and pencil, they shared it up without your permission.
Yes. So were you? Would you have considered yourself a poor lad growing up, with your parents? Or were your parents
to be honest with you, and I'm not just saying this, when you grow up in the country, you really don't understand the concept of poverty.
All right.
Especially if you have, because my grandfather was a cane farmer. My grandmother, at the time, she wasn't as active as she used to be. But there was a lot of trees around, fruit trees. We had cherry tree. We had, all of these things. So you really never consider yourself to be poor. Is
Can't be
growing up,
hungry.
getting older now, you get to put these things into perspective and understand that, well, you probably weren't high up there. But
Yes.
certainly in terms of quality of life, we had a fairly decent quality of life.
Okay. All right. That's nice. Okay. That's nice to hear. And so you how long did you go to prep that basic school for? You remember?
Well, I went to the basic school was 1 day, right? After
No,
that,
the reliable.
yeah, but then we went to reliable prep now.
Oh, it's prep. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, reliable prep. I think it's probably spent about a year at reliable prep, because then we moved from Kingston, went to St. Catherine, and was living in Brayton, and then I started going to Brayton Primary School. This was around 1983. Was in primary school, Bridgeport Primary, and I spent 1 year at Bridgeport Primary, and then we moved again.
Oh my gosh!
We moved from Kingston, from St. Catherine, Kingston to St. Catherine, and then to Maypen, Mineralites.
Oh.
And I went to Hazard Primary School, and essentially we spent our years growing up in Clarendon. So I left from Hazard Primary, and then I went to Glenmuir High School. So
is Glenmuir in Clarendon?
Yes, it's outside Maypen. Yeah.
Okay. Why did I think you went to Ardennes?
No.
Oh, so it's Glenmuir. Okay, all right. My bad.
Yeah.
All right. And so, how was your boyhood at Glenmuir?
Was good. Was very, excellent. Funny enough, at the time, because at that time we did common entrance, right? And at the time when I did my common entrance, I passed for Glenmuir. Most of my friends passed for CC.
Yes.
And there's a big rivalry between CC and Glenmuir.
Okay.
But it turns out that, no offense to my CC friends, that the people with the higher grades ended up at Glenmuir.
I don't think Diana is gonna want to hear that saying that.
No offense to the CC people. So I ended up at Glenmuir.
Okay, great. And say, so when did you get into your mind? When did you formulate the thought that I want to be an attorney? Because you are an attorney.
I think I'd say about third form, because funny enough, my grandfather wanted me to be a doctor. And when I got to high school in third form, the only science subject that I liked was biology.
Oh, okay. Wonder why? Why? What was that about?
Well, it was an easy subject, I found.
Okay.
Relatively speaking, but the teacher was also very instrumental in my, affinity to biology. So,
right. Okay.
And then when you're transitioning from third form to fourth form, that's when start to shape out, which subjects and which field you wanted to go into. And I think at third form I realized that the sciences really weren't for me, and I decided then that I'd do law.
Okay. And so you did you went all the way through sixth form at Glenmuir,
right?
Yes.
Right. I went to sixth form at Glenmuir. In fact, I was head boy there.
Oh, were you?
Yes.
Okay.
Right. So yes, I went right through to sixth form.
Okay, but I'm finding out some stuff about you that I didn't know before. That's nice. And then so you left sixth form and went straight into UE.
Right. And I mean, there's a story there too, because
Tell me about the story.
the 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 university came to our school, to our high school. I remember he was the assistant registrar at the time, Winston Davis, and he
Mhm.
came there and he gave us a talk, about the university.
Oh.
And I remember, you know, it sort of shaped and focused my mind. and
Oh.
and that connection, I actually sat in his office when he put the offer to enter the university together, because what had happened is that the grades had come out, they weren't as good as they should have been, and getting into law directly was very competitive.
Yes.
And I ended up doing a first degree in political sciences and international relations.
Mhm.
And what had happened is that when I recognized that the grades weren't necessarily as competitive as they should have been, I then made contact with Mr. Davis,
Oh.
and he put the package together for me and gave me my university offer in his office at the university.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. So yeah, have you talked to him since then? I mean, do you know where
Yeah,
he's?
man. Well, put it this way: we have been in touch. We keep. I haven't seen him in a good while now, to be honest. But anytime I see him, we are known to each other. So
Okay.
I consider him a very good friend of mine, quite frankly.
Oh, that's nice. And you see how just a little bit of guidance, a little talk could
Right.
change person's lives, right? I,
Sure.
I mean, he came to the school and you immediately connected and you immediately said, this is what I want to do. And you fought your way through there. That's good.
Yes.
I mean, many of our kids don't get that at all. I don't.
Well. Believe you me, it was a very good initiative of the university to have the registrar come to the high school and to talk to sixth formers and to explain to them. In fact, if it had happened before I got into fourth form, things could have probably been different, because one of the things that struck me, when you are growing up, you get this idea that you had to do certain specific subjects
Right.
to get into law. And
Right.
as it turns out, that wasn't the case. What was important was really the quality of the grades.
The
So
grades.
you could have done subjects that you were more enjoyed,
Yes.
and probably would have done better at.
Better at them. Yes. Okay. Okay. Ah, that's nice to know. I wonder if there's still this university still goes out to these
I
schools.
believe they do.
Mhm.
I'd want to believe it is still done. But what
Mhm.
they have now, they have career days where they invite students on the campus, and they have different disciplines, and they give them tours of the campus. I think you guys call it open campus in the States or something like that.
Yes, yes, yes. Where they invite the students onto the campus for a particular day. They probably have four of those days before the summer ends and so forth.
Right,
Yeah.
right, right.
Okay. All right. And okay. Thank you for that. That's really great. And so you went to university. Tell me what was interesting about going to the University of the West Indies. What any particular thing that stands out with you?
Well, living on Hall, I lived on Hall. I was on Taylor. So to all the Taylorites who might be listening, I was on Block B. So that's the
Mhm.
closest thing you'll get to a fraternity or sorority, hall life.
Mhm.
And that was a rich experience. I've made lifelong friends on campus. We still interact as a unit, and it doesn't matter where in the world they are. because the university is a regional university. So I have colleagues from Bahamas, from Barbados, and there are many who would have left and are in the US and other places in the world. So it has given us a family beyond our family, and it was an enriching experience.
Okay, well, let's get down to the nitty-gritty. Were you ragged when you went in the first year? Tell me,
yes,
what would
everybody,
you?
everybody at the time was ragged,
Tell me what them did to. I want to know what them did to you. I want to know what them did to you.
The university subsequently banned it. But yes, and to be honest, it was not. I was not traumatized by the experience.
Okay.
It was fun.
Yes.
Part of the initiation process is that we had to drink what they call a brew.
What is it made of?
Right?
Do you know?
They had put toothpaste in there. I think they put in there and some other very noxious mixtures. When I was having the brew, I made sure I did not breathe. Yeah.
Okay.
And, they also had this grave that was next door to the hall. They call it Jagai.
Yeah.
So we had to go to the grave and pay homage to Jagai,
And I can imagine that the next year you did the same thing for them, right? For your freshman.
To be honest, I mean, I wasn't an active ragger,
Okay.
Put it that way. But I did participate. But what I would do is, I would essentially communicate to the freshmen how to approach the ragging, because people come and want to get upset. I'd probably take them one side and tell them, say, it's not that serious.
Oh, yeah. All right, guys. Okay, great. Thank you. And then finish with university, your first job.
Well, at one stage I was threatened to be a professional student, because I spent a while on the campus, meaning I did a first degree, then I did a second degree, then I did the law program.
Oh.
Right? And during that period of time, I worked on campus. So
okay.
I would have done invigilation, I'd have done tutorials, and
You spent about 7 years? About 7 years on campus?
I spent, so the first degree would be 3 years. Started a master's, and the master's program was essentially a year. But then when I'd completed, and it was a taught master's, when I'd completed the taught courses, I got into the law program, and that was 3 years. So that is what?
About 7 years. Yeah, that's close to 7.
And then unlike in the US, where you do pre-law and then you go to law school, we do 5 years here. So you have to do a LLB and then you have to do a CLE. And the CLE is 4 years, right? Okay. So I was really on the campus for a good stretch.
Good.
It wasn't. I went to Barbados for 2 years.
Okay.
I studied on 2 campuses, Mona and Kayville.
I so appreciate that. That's that you were a lifelong student. Yes, but at least that prepares you. When you came out, you must have been about 26, 27.
Yeah, I was around there, because when I finished my first degree, I went in at 19. I was 21, 22. And then I started the master's around that time, so 23. Yeah, about 27, 28 there about, yeah.
Great, great, great. And so, when you came out, you must have been a person that was well recruited by many companies because of your time on campus.
You know, I can't identify, and this is not to be negative. I've never had the experience of being out of a job. So when I was at law school, I started working with a law firm, Archer Cummings and Company, and they took me on immediately, even before I was called to the bar. In fact, the partner at Archer Cummings is the person who called me to the bar. And then, whilst I was a student on campus, I was working as an invigilator, as a tutor, as a research assistant. So my movement from student to employment was essentially seamless.
Seamless, yes. And then you got into politics. You got into representational
Yeah.
politics. Tell me about that. When did that come into play and how?
Well, I actually just at around the same time I decided that law was my thing. I also decided that I was going to enter politics.
Ah,
So I'd actually made that decision from third form
okay. Oh,
in
wow.
high school.
Okay, okay, okay. So that's why
So
you did
so
that
so
political
I was
science and.
involved. I was involved in student government. I was monitor. I was student council rep. When I was on the campus, I was vice president of the Guild of Students. In Kville, I was a class rep down there. At law
Mm.
school, I ran to be law president, but I didn't win. Right? Yes.
Okay. So
So
it's so that's coming. That was and you became a member of the People's Political
People's
People's National
National Party. Yes, I
Party.
was I when I was on campus, I became associated with the YO, and
Yes.
then we formed a group on campus called Vision 2000. And there's
Vision 2000.
there's an interesting story about that, because all the members, all the founding members of that group ended up in parliament or in some part of the government.
Oh wow. Okay.
And some are still
Okay.
in parliament today.
Okay. 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 That's nice. That's very nice. That's it's really nice to hear. And then and so you know when did you started to think about running for office?
Well, as I said, the interest was there. Um,
Uh-huh.
so from 2000, I was active. I became active, I think, around um 2000, 2003,
Hmm.
thereabout, right? So
Hmm.
you asked me about work, and here's another interesting story. So
Yes.
when I had completed my law program, I'd actually applied to JAMPRO.
Oh, the
And
jumper. Okay.
right,
Okay.
and this was in 2002, right?
Hmm.
Because I completed the um the CLE, which is the Certificate of Legal Education, in 2002. So upon completing that, I applied to JAMPRO, and the PNP had just won the elections in 2002, right? I think it was PJ's third term or something like that. So I applied to JAMPRO, and on my application, I had put on there that I was a member of the PNPYO.
Okay, I want to hear what happened there.
Right? Now, they wrote me back to say that, unfortunately, they did not have any opening, but that they have put my application on file
All right.
just in case that anything comes up. And as it turns out, in January of 2003, the cabinet was being formed and they appointed a minister, Dr. Paul Robertson, as the Minister of Development in the office of the cabinet.
Right.
And he needed a special advisor. And I received a call from Jampro, and I was brought in. They interviewed me, and they asked me if I would work with the Minister of Government. I told them yes, and they transferred the interview over to the cabinet office, and the rest they say was history.
Oh my gosh!
I was recruited and employed to Dr. Robertson, and not only was he a minister, but he was also a member of Parliament. And I was able to indicate to him my interest in the politics.
Okay.
And he brought me over into his constituency. And again, the rest they say is history.
Okay, very nice, very nice, very nice. Well, I met you in 2013.
Yes.
And I remember in 2010, I think it was, yes, 2010. If 2010 was the time when the Dudus affair, we were pretty active from 2004 up to 2009 when things started to get shaky in diaspora engagements and, a lot of back and forth, and we didn't have a conference in 2010, and we had a small one in 2011, and unnoticeable pretty much. And I recall how disappointed I was that nothing at all was going on for 2 years, and we didn't get a hold. There was pretty much no minister that was well, there was one, but there was not a lot of interest in diaspora. And so I remember when I met you first, we invited you to California to come speak for us at our banquet.
Right.
And we spent an entire weekend together. That was quite exciting. And the rest is history, because we have worked very, very closely since then. We worked very, very closely in engagement and building stuff. I remember you even chose for me to go to, what's the place called again? St. Lucia, to represent at the IOM. And so I want to give you a lot of props in terms of your energy, bringing your energy back to diaspora and diaspora engagement and understanding. How did you get there, by the way? How did you get into Ministry of Foreign Affairs and what? Tell me about that.
That's another story, right? so I'm actually at the time I was asked to be, because when Dr. Robertson took me into his constituency, he also introduced me to the region, which is Region 4. That is St. Catherine and Clarendon. I was regional secretary, and then I became vice chairman of the region. And in 2010, they were introducing 3 new seats in Jamaica. 2 in, I don't want to get this wrong. Yes, 2 in St. Catherine and 1 in St. James. So I was asked to be what they call an executive assignee. That is a person who goes into the constituency and prepares the constituency, and then they would select a candidate to run in the constituency, right? Because this was a new seat. Right. So they asked me to be the executive assignee. I told them yes, but I gave them one condition, which was if I organized it and I could win it, then I'd want to be the candidate.
Okay. Good.
So they agreed, and I went in, I did the organization, and we won the 2011 general election. So I'm the first person to be elected member of parliament for that constituency. Now, I didn't have any inkling or any idea that I would have been appointed a minister.
What your thought there, because I don't want to miss this. I want to feel you when the results of the election came in, because that was your first time running, right?
No, it wasn't my first time running.
Okay.
It
Okay.
was my first time running at that level,
At that level.
right?
Yes. Tell me about the moment that you found that you won the seat. How did that feel?
You know, I suspect like winning the gold medal if I was an but it was a wonderful feeling, you know. So when I speak about, the joys of victory,
Yes.
right? It was very, very momentous. We had a motorcade that originated out of the constituency, drove all the way to Oak Road to the headquarters. There would
Yes.
have been a big crowd that would have been gathered there. And then, my entourage was taking me through the crowd onto the platform. So it was very exciting.
Did you feel any sense of power that come over you or humility? What came over?
I mean, the truth is, it was more euphoria,
Yes.
um, and a sense of, thinking of what is to come.
Okay. All right.
Uh,
Great.
it was really an electric moment.
Good.
So,
Good to hear.
so I was saying to you, and I did not anticipate that I was going to be appointed as a minister because I
Right.
was a first-time member of parliament, relatively young because I became a member of parliament at the age of 38, and we had won 42 seats. So the prime minister, who was Portia Simpson Miller at the time, had many people to choose from.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, I was later told by a supporter, not of me, but a supporter of the party, that I had more luck than sense.
Okay.
And when he recognized that I didn't really understand what he was saying, he explained it to me, which is
Okay.
there were many persons who wanted to be appointed and who could have been appointed, but the prime minister chose me. No, here's the kicker. When I was called to serve at the ministerial level, I was called by Dr. Peter Phillips, and
Oh.
he indicated to me that the prime minister wanted me to serve as a minister of state in the Ministry of National Security.
Okay.
So when and this was now around the 6th of January, when we were to be sworn in as ministers.
Yes.
So when I turned up at King's House, there was a delay, and we were sworn in, and the prime minister, Portia Simpson Miller at the time, the most honorable, she said that every minister must report immediately to their ministry.
Whoa.
So at the time, Peter Bunting was the Minister of National Security.
Yes.
So I went over to Peter Bunting to ask him if I'm ready to go down to the ministry. And he looked at me and he said, "You're the shortest serving minister of state."
Okay.
That is when I found out that I was reassigned to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade.
Okay. Oh my gosh. All right. So what was that like when you walked into the ministry the first morning? And did you have any experience about international relations and all that stuff?
Well, and this is a funny thing because remember I said that I have a degree in political sciences.
Right. Yes.
My minor is in international relations,
Right.
and I did a master's in government, and my specialization is international relations.
Right. Okay. Okay.
So from an academic perspective, I
You're
have
something. Yes.
in international relations. But then now I was assigned subject areas of foreign trade and diaspora.
Mm-hmm.
So you spoke about the period 2010, and I'd been following it in the media. So I knew that there was some disquiet
Yes.
amongst members of the diaspora and how they perceived the engagement process.
Yes.
And I determined in my mind that we have to change that dynamics. We have to get people back on board. We have to re-engage. And
Yes.
that was really the approach I took.
Okay.
And as fate would have it, in 2012, Israel, and I know a lot of people may be upset, but nonetheless, Israel had a diaspora conference. It was
Yes.
their first inaugural diaspora conference. I'm saying, well, if I'm the minister and this is my portfolio, let me go and hear how they approach diaspora engagement.
Yes.
And I believe attending that conference was helpful in terms of opening my mind to the various approaches to engagement. And then, of course, I made several trips. You made mention of one of them, into the diaspora location. And I listened. I tried to understand and appreciate the different perspective. And I formed the view that, is one big tent. We're all Jamaicans.
Yes.
And we want everybody to be under that tent and engaged. So it didn't really matter which organization you were a part of, as long as you were promoting Jamaica and the interests of Jamaica. I was interested in what you were interested in.
All right.
And I also formed the view that the diaspora doesn't need me to tell them what to do.
All right.
They
Yes.
know what they want to do.
Yes.
So my role was to really facilitate whatever it is that they want to do, but at the same time, to try to plug that into the national agenda and priority. So, it's more of a coordinating, streamlining, facilitating role. And I mean, I don't like to micromanage.
Yes.
I rather when people are able to do what they want to do and the structures are there to allow them to do what they want to do.
Well, there wasn't really a structure or anything, but they had their own structures that worked for them, and they wanted to execute based on that the way they wanted
Sure.
to execute.
And I had no problem with that at all.
Right. Yes. Yes.
Because and you're correct, because and this is where you came in now, Leo, and where we were able to move the needle, because before people were focused on their alma mater
Yes.
and not necessarily on the education system as a whole.
Right.
Right? And
Right.
then we decided that we are gonna now try to leverage that and
Yes.
to fill that gap.
Yes.
So yes, continue to engage with the alma mater, but let us engage with the education system as a process.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
and I believe we have found a very good formula that is working up to now. So if you remember, it was the first time that we were having an education summit of the nature that we had.
It never happened like that before. Yes. Yes.
Never happened before.
Yes.
And we have seen the benefits of that. And I think it has been sustained. It continues to grow.
Yes.
And that is really part of what we had hoped to achieve, not just in education, but in all of the other areas, agriculture, the investment,
health, and yes.
It is not perfect. There's still more that needs to be done, but I think we were able in that period to move the needle significantly and to demonstrate that there are avenues for greater participation among members of the diaspora.
How do you see what I know that you're looking what has changed, what do you see as a result of your initial involvement, what have you seen? But I see a lot, but I want to know what you see.
Well, the truth is, I in a sense, I think that some things have happened. As I see the attempt in relation to the Global Council, I won't knock that. I think it's a good initiative because part of what we were seeking to do then was to broaden the engagement beyond the main areas. So we know Canada, we know the US, we know UK, but there are other
Outlying areas.
And we wanted to bring them under the tent. So I appreciate what the Global Council is seeking to do, right? I'm a bit disappointed in relation to the mapping project because I think that could have been continued, and it is part of the toolkit that other successful diaspora engagement processes have, where you know where your people are, you know what their skill sets are, and you're able to engage them and pull them fully into the nation building process, right? I initially, when there was a change of government, there was not an appointment of a minister of state with specific responsibility for diaspora engagement, and I think that was a backward step. And I got the impression that the minister was divesting herself of that responsibility. And again, when we look at other diaspora processes, they tend to have even the prime minister, who is the minister of diaspora, to signal the importance of diaspora engagement and diaspora relations. So I think that the fact that they had not appointed a minister of state, that was a retrograde step. They have subsequently done that. They had briefly appointed Colonel Charles Jr. And then there's Les Campbell, who is there now. And I'm just seeing him moving among and moving out into diaspora. Granted, 2019, 2020 are aberrations in terms of the movement of people because of the pandemic, right? But I think because of that there was a loss of momentum, right? Then we had left there the diaspora development policy that was left there. We left our migration and development policy there, and for a long time there was no mention of it. And in fact, when they did mention it was when Colonel Charles Jr. was appointed as the Minister of State. And even in terms of how they approached that, it created a little bit of a backlash because people were thinking that this was something that there was no consultation and so on in relation to it, which is not entirely true. And I have to say that. I don't know who is going to be upset, but I have to say it. There was a process of consultation and engagement, and it wasn't a top-down project. It was a bottom-up project.
Are you speaking of your time before or in 2017, 2018?
Well, the point is that diaspora development policy started under my watch.
Right, it's this, yes.
But it was not carried forward as aggressively as it could have been when there was a change of administration. And in fact, we did not hear anything about it until Colonel Charles Jr. was appointed as the Minister of State. But because of how it was done, there was some pushback from members of the diaspora because it came across as if this was being imposed on them,
yes,
as opposed to coming from them, right? And I am just saying that unfortunately that was
not true,
not really the case. But I could understand if persons were of that view.
Right. The one thing that I see and continue to see, or I saw from your time, is the energy. No matter what kind of structure is being developed or being implemented, what I see that has done very well is how many persons are now understanding the term the term diaspora. That's one thing, because when we came into it, nobody understood the term, right? But then the most important thing is how many persons have been engaged now and are trying to do things in all different formats, even just to speak about diaspora. People are doing it, and so that is one thing that came out of 2013.
Sure. I mean, some people still have a challenge with the word diaspora.
Yes.
I personally don't, because I understand what it means. It is not a word that is specific to the Jews or to Israel, right? You know, some people would rather probably say Jamaicans living overseas, but the nomenclature itself doesn't really matter.
No.
But I agree with you that that period turned on, in my view, more consciousness to the Jamaican community living outside of Jamaica, and hardly anybody now, no matter whether they're in private sector or they're in public sector, doesn't talk about and make reference to the diaspora, which is a good thing.
Right.
So I think that there's greater recognition and, I dare say, appreciation of the Jamaicans who live outside of Jamaica, not just from a remittance perspective, but from a recognition that they are an important part of nation building.
Yes. I recall and you can recall with me in 2013 when a lot of persons in Jamaica would regard the diaspora as the work of the diaspora, or lack of work there is. They would call it what was it?
Talk shop.
Right. Talk shop. Right. And that was on the front page of every newspaper across Jamaica. That just slapped me in my face all day long, which is one of the reasons why I continue to push to kill that word, that phrase.
Well, the truth is, I think people don't understand. We are not mind readers. That's the first thing. And the only way I'm going to know what is in your mind is if I speak to you, or if we have a conversation. So talk is important. Talk is not cheap, right?
Yes.
And one of the things we did is there was a criticism, and I'd say it was a just criticism, that we'd have these conferences, decisions would be made, but there would be an implementation gap.
Right.
And we set about to plug that implementation gap.
Yes.
So we had set up the Diaspora Implementation Committee.
Yes. I was a part of that.
We did something that had never been done up to that time.
But it's still not being done right now, right?
2013, when we had that conference, we had a follow-up conference in 2015.
2015. Mm-hmm.
But at the 2015 conference, we were able to table a report card.
Yes.
What did we do between 2013 and 2015?
Yes.
It had never happened before.
No, and it still hasn't happened. Yes, I remember that. I was a member of that implementation team. And so, so we've seen where that talk shop thing is gone. We've seen an energized diaspora. And the next thing that I see right now, you can speak to it, is that majority, I don't know if this is pandemic, I don't think it's pandemic, because I think it's pre-pandemic. We see a lot of collaborations now between Jamaica, from it's being sparked from Jamaica to diaspora. And not just diaspora sparking a match or lighting a match for Jamaica, but we see a lot of sparks coming from Jamaica and wanting that kind of a relationship building.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a greater consciousness, right? I think people see the possibilities, and more persons are launching out, more persons are reaching out, and people are coming back. So it's like a bridge. And
Yes.
we are not gonna say that this wasn't happening before, but I believe it is more accelerated now than it has
Mm-hmm.
ever been. And let me say
Yes.
this: one of the things that we attempted to do with the introduction of a migration and development policy was to mainstream in policy making at all levels diaspora engagement,
Yes.
because traditionally we have looked at migration as a negative as opposed to a
Yes.
positive. And the
Yes.
idea of coupling migration and development is a new phenomenon, because when we think about migration, we think mainly about brain drain. We don't think about
Yes.
brain circulation,
Or, yeah,
right? We don't think
or even gain. Yes. Right. Right.
upgrading skills coming back and Jamaica benefiting from these skills. So the migration and development policy was really to change that mindset and to
Mhm.
look at migration more as a development tool and the
Rather than.
possibilities that can happen if we are able to partner in a genuine way, Jamaicans overseas and Jamaicans at home. And
Absolutely.
as you have rightly said and observed, I believe it is happening with more frequency, more fluidity, and persons are getting this idea that Jamaica is not just the rock, but Jamaica is wherever Jamaicans are.
Right. All right. So let's take it from here forward now. We've seen almost 2 years of pandemic from March of 2020, and we're still having some serious issues right now. We see where the CDC has said, they're warning Americans to stay away from Jamaica, pretty much. But let me take this, because one of the things that's suffering for us that is hard to capture is education of our youth, right? It has taken a deep dive, and we are uncertain of what is going to happen, what kind of plans are we making, or do you suggest that we should be making, and how is that going to translate into the future, especially for the kids who are being impacted right now? Not even the basic school and the grade 1 and grade 2 kids, but rather the grade 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 kids who are on their way out, not on their way in, they're on their way out. And how is that going to affect our jobs, the jobs that are going to be created, and are they going to be suffering? That kind of thing. That's the kind of thought I want.
Right. So the first thing is, I've seen where the consul general in New York and I believe in Miami have organized tablet drives. And I have to commend that. I believe it is a good initiative, because part of the challenge that we have is the lack of access to these devices. And then when they in fact have the devices, then there's lack of access to internet services, right? Because data is expensive. So here is definitely an opportunity for members of the diaspora to continue to support those students who are having access issues. So outside of just providing them with the tablets, we also need to think about the data side of things. So if persons are able to send, and Jamaicans do this all the while, but probably in a more structured way, data credits to students who are in need, that will assist. But I suspect that what the government is trying to do is to get back to a face-to-face arrangement as quickly as possible. We don't know if that is going to happen anytime soon, because we are now in the throes of a third wave of COVID-19. The Delta variant is here. There's still significant vaccine hesitancy, and I don't think the conversations around mandatory vaccination is helping. Now, having said all of that, I want to observe that learning loss is not a phenomenon that is unique to Jamaica. It is a phenomenon that is across the world, because it it is being demonstrated that as human beings we learn better when we are in communication with each other in person as opposed to via the technology. And I don't know that we're going to go back to a situation where we are completely immersed in face to face. I think it's going to be a blended approach. So we have to fix the access to devices, but we also have to fix the access to the internet itself in terms of service provision. And here again is where I believe Jamaicans in the diaspora or in the tech space can bring their skills to bear on helping us with some solutions here. It may be that there's people out there who have broadband connections, who have satellite connections in terms of internet provisions of services and so on, and can offer these services to Jamaica, right? So technology is definitely a space where we need the support of all members of the diaspora.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. And then tell me, about our pandemic situation now. We have a lot of persons and dying, a lot of persons getting sick. And
Yeah.
I mean, what's
Well, I believe that, we are just now getting to where places like New York were, places where Italy and so on were. I think it's just a lag that has happened. And I think that there have been some missteps by the government. They opened up the country in the summer when we were still experiencing an uptick in coronaviruses, the COVID-19 pandemic. You know, we opened the borders to the United Kingdom when the Delta variant was very high there. And let's be clear, yes, they are attempting to balance running the country, survival, economic, and all of that. But, I don't know that they have got the balance as correct as they could. And they opened up the entertainment sector, but anybody would know that once you do that, it could create problems, even though transportation and the workplace were really the number one drivers of the spread of corona based on the data here. So the fact that you have opened up the economy, the movement of people, then it opens the gate. But then you're between a rock and a hard place because you can't shut down the country indefinitely. So we are hoping for the best, quite frankly. The fact that the CDC has now put us on a watch list is not helpful, because part of the reason why we opened back up was to allow tourists to come in. And they have come in numbers. Over 1 million tourists have come here since we have opened back up. But again, that is a challenge, it is a threat. And even though the minister may put on a brave face and say, well, the rates of incidence of COVID is minimal in the tourists, the fact is, if even one person come inside there is a problem.
the problem?
Right? So there's no easy answer.
Okay.
And truth be told, that recommendations were made that were not followed or implemented in a timely manner. An example of one, we spoke about field hospitals from very early, because if you were looking at what was happening around us in the world, nowhere in the world has the hospitals been able to manage the volume of persons who are coming down with COVID-19, and therefore they had to put in field hospitals. So we should have seen that and had that in place before. Minister Tufton had made an announcement about the arena being converted to a field hospital in 2020. Up to now, that has not happened. So the reality is that there are some actions that could have been taken. Again, I am not sure why private doctors are not being allowed to administer the COVID-19 vaccine. I don't know if it's a logistic issue. I don't know what it is. But if it is a logistic issue, that should be sorted out, because people may be more comfortable going to their private doctor than going to inoculation center. And even if they want to go to the inoculation center, give them the option of being able to go to their private doctor and get the vaccine administered to them. More community clinics. So the government has handled some things well, but in many instances, they have dropped the ball on other things, and they have not anticipated or looked, in my view, to see what has happened elsewhere and try to address those matters in a timely manner. And therefore, we have the type of challenge that we have now. And as a result of that, we have gone back into a series of lockdown. And let us again be fair. You have places like New Zealand that had gone into a month lockdown. They thought they had the thing under control. They opened up back a little, and then it started to climb again, and they had to lock down again. So yes, we're going to have fits and starts, but at the same time, I think the government could be more proactive in implementing measures that have been implemented elsewhere and that have proven to be successful. So that is what I'd want.
I so thank you for that. That's really great to hear that. Just the final question for you, Arnaldo Brown. What is in the future for Arnaldo Brown? Where can we see him? What's the next year or 2 years going to be?
Well, the future is bright. I'm at the university. I'm teaching. I'm in private practice. I'm involved in a whole lot of things, and I'm not out of politics. So we'll never know what the future holds. But you prepare, and when the opportunity comes, then you will be prepared.
Arnaldo, thank you so much for this wonderful 1 hour of great conversation. I love it, and thank you so much. And I'm sure I'm going to see you again soon.
Sure. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Great. It's Leo Gilling wrapping up one-on-one on a Wednesday night. Thank you so much for watching. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.